What in the world is going on with the Supreme Court right now and with Roe versus Wade? Since 1973, more than 63 million babies have been aborted, and you need to be up to date. You need to know what's happening, and you need to be actively involved. And so tonight, we're bringing on an amazing guest, Matea Murta. She's a tremendous pro-life advocate. You can see her nightly on Revival Today. Check the news. She's an amazing voice, and we're not only going to be getting you updated on what's happening with the Supreme Court, what it means for us practically as believers and as a nation, and what we're going to be doing, what we need to be doing coming up. We're also going to be talking about the apologetics of it. Now, this is where it's important. How can you give an answer for the hope that lies within you when some pro-abortion activist throws these one-liners at you, my body, my choice? What is the right way to respond to that? So we're going to put Matea in the hot seat, and I'm going to start throwing these. I'm going to be the devil's advocate and start throwing these at her to see how we as believers should answer these questions. So it's going to be a tremendous, tremendous program tonight full of lots of information and revelation to help you know what's going on and how to get actively involved to make a difference. So let's dive right into that interview. Here we go. Matea, it is so good to have you on Encounter today. Now listen, we're going to put you in the hot seat, and in a moment I'm going to ask you some questions that pro-abortion advocates ask or arguments that they make, and I'm going to just get you to just flying by the seat of your pants, give us a pro-life argument or the pro-life position. But first, would you clarify for us what in the world is going on with Roe versus Wade right now?
Yes, so it is about to be thrown into the dumpster of history, lit on fire and gone forever. I am very excited about this. Been praying, fasting, petitioning, protesting, everything for years, my whole political career, to get this thing gone in America. So what we're seeing right now was a leaked draft decision by SCOTUS justices that was released through Politico that showed a decision amongst the majority, 5 judges, that would toss Roe versus Wade out. Huge development, because we heard oral arguments with regards to two different pro-life cases back in December, one with Mississippi, abortion ban law, and then another called Dobbs versus Jackson's Women's Health. Those were going to be decided and the decisions released in June. And the one case, the Mississippi law case, even actually Dobbs versus Jackson, those cases strike at the heart of Roe versus Wade. So depending on where they decide, the court decides on these cases, Roe versus Wade would be tossed out. So when we see this leak, a lot of people were saying this is conspiracy, or is this really true? Which you should question everything. Mm-hmm. But you read through, I believe it was 98 pages long. I didn't get through the whole thing yet. It's extremely long. And when you're reading legalese, your brain kind of goes into mush at a certain point. So my brain has gone into mush a couple times. So reading through it, though, it reads like many other decisions or opinions issued by court justices in the past. And so I took this as credible from the beginning, and then based upon like the tone of Justice Alito, that's the judge who was issuing this opinion. And in it, he clearly, it's so beautiful to see how they wrote it. He wrote it. It's quite well done. And it shows that they not only considered the definitions that Roe versus Wade considered as foundation for its justification, but they also looked back into history, American history, and the foundation thereof, and said this has no legal standing. And the heart of these cases that have been heard in December strike at what is Roe versus Wade, and shows that whether you're looking at the 10th Amendment or 14th Amendment justification for Roe versus Wade being so-called constitutional, it doesn't stand. It doesn't have a leg to stand on. So for me, you look at, oh my gosh, Roe versus Wade gone. What is that going to do for the United States? One, it's going to throw back the authority to the states to decide their own abortion legislation. That should never have been stripped away from the states, from the people that state representatives represent. And so it's giving back the authority to the people of each state, which is extremely key. you're also seeing the upholding of law. Something interesting about this, even it's not just Roe versus Wade, but also Planned Parenthood versus Casey would also be chucked out. Incredibly important because that expanded the breadth of the width of what was able to happen with regards to Roe versus Wade, expanding so-called abortion rights, which do not exist, but abortion on demand. What's interesting also about Roe versus Wade is that it could also strikes also at the heart of not Dobbs versus Jackson. We're talking about, that's a good one. We're talking about Doe versus Bolton. So what happened under Roe versus Wade is there was this arbitrary 3-trimester segment of pregnancy, which is not based off any kind of biology or development of pregnancy, that was created by this Justice Blackwell. And he stated that with regards to, he set up trimesters so that there could be different restrictions with regards to abortion for each trimester. So when you, like, first trimester, full on whenever you want, second trimester, health and wellness and various other restrictions, mandates with regards to restrictions had to be qualifiable. And then you get to the third trimester, and that's where the issue of health comes into play. And it just says the health of the mother. So then you look at, Doe versus Bolton gets to define what health is. Well, health under Doe v. Bolton states that it could be familial health, psychological health, emotional health, and then also the age of the woman. And so it just goes on, that list goes on and on. It's quite exhaustive. So not only would you be striking at these various very pro-abortion rulings rather at the Supreme Court level, but you would then be seeing this level of authority that had been stripped from the states being brought back to the states, which is all about getting back to the true fabric and the intuition of all that was created with regards to the Constitution being upheld, supported, and promoted in the U.S. once again.
Yeah, the value of federalism, the separation of powers is really important. And people that are pulling their hair out because of the potential decision that the Supreme Court is going to be handing down don't understand the original intention of the Supreme Court of the United States, which is not to rule on the morality of anything. They're not there to rule on whether this is right or this is wrong. They're there to rule on the constitutionality of a thing. Is this right, found in the Constitution? Is the Constitution being interpreted correctly? In fact, I have an excerpt from what could be coming out very soon from SCOTUS. Here it is. It says, "It is time to heed the Constitution and return the issue of abortion to the people's elected representatives. This is what the Constitution and the rule of law demands." So the Supreme Court is actually, for the first time, ruling on this in this way constitutionally, is actually bringing this thing back to the people, which we need to wake up, because this is only, if this is true, and we believe that it is, this is only a first draft decision. It is a draft decision. And so tell us what that means. It's a draft decision.
Yeah, so basically back in December, there was these oral arguments heard, and then the justices come together in a very private setting, just the justices, and they debate amongst themselves, issue their own opinions. And then, of course, there's essentially vote buying that goes on where because certain opinions are being floated, okay, so Alito stands here, Kavanaugh stands here, Sotomayor stands here. I want to try and proceed with my opinion as a Supreme Court justice, the other justices who have opposing views and opinions. So to come on to my side. So that's essentially why there's this draft decision. Draft decisions are created all the time. It's very, very normal stuff. But the fact that this draft decision was actually leaked sets a precedent. This has never happened.
This is huge. You talk to us about this. Why is this important?
This is like, well, there's this constitutional attorney named Kristen Hall, incredible woman, and she says that this is judiciary terrorism, is how she put it. And that's a great way of putting it, because this is literally a suicide operation that whoever this was went on to.
Why? Now, there's a reason why the Supreme Court has lifetime appointments. There's a reason why things are done behind closed doors. Explain to us why this is judiciary terrorism.
So for me, it speaks to the institution of SCOTUS. You have to protect those decisions before they're ever released, so that there is no swaying of opinion, so that personalities don't come into play, so public pressure doesn't come into play, so that the mainstream media doesn't come into play and have an element of influence with regards to swaying pro or against a SCOTUS matter. That's huge, because like we've seen with different courts across the world, not just in America, but across the world, whether it's the jury or whether it's the attorneys or whether it's the judge who is swayed by various, like, let's say, death threats, threats against their families, threats against their businesses, etc. That's a big issue. But also, it's suicide on the part. This is metaphorically, not. This is just figuratively, not reality. But suicide in the way for the person who actually released and leaked this document, because their whole entire legal career is thrown out. And we've already seen the court justice issue a statement that there is going to be investigation about this. And I'm like, heck yeah, like that shouldn't even be really a statement, but I mean, you got to do it. And actually, to be honest, we've just seen this confirmed. This was a confirmed leak. This is a real document. But the fact that this is happening to one of the most, I don't want to use the word sacred, but for the sake of the way that we view and feel about the word sacred, I'm going to use it, the sacred institution of SCOTUS, how it has been so protected, and the reason why it has been so protected for so long is because you're ruling on the most important document, fundamental document of United States. So making determinations on that front is incredibly important, and protecting those people who are, and their decisions, their opinions, keeping them intact, and the privacy of those decisions before any kind of ruling is released to the public is absolutely of necessity.
Yeah, that's how cartels influence the nations that they control through terrorism, through threats of violence, and that is the potential. And what's probably going to happen is they'll be investigated and then they'll be hailed as a hero and get a job at NBC or something along those lines. I would have said CNN, but they probably won't be in business by then. And
that's what the pro-abortion side is already doing. They're praising this individual. Thank you for letting us know. And it's quite coincidental. Just about a week and a half ago, we saw Planned Parenthood up their funding, specific funding for campaigns for the midterms coming up to different PACs and state. And then you see all these people at the same time automatically show up at the Supreme Court from the pro-abort side. And it's all these, like, even articles have been coming out for the last month that have been very specific to the SCOTUS cases, which aren't to be heard until potentially the end of June. So to see all these various elements, I'm a patterns person. I like to view patterns and then kind of put things together. It's kind of the best way to kind of see where the wind's blowing, and very reliable too. And that's what I'm seeing. I'd say this was going to be coming out no matter what. I think it was it was reality of what was going to happen. We just didn't know about it, but here we are.
Well, what this is doing is it's exposing those who for decades have claimed to be pro-choice. It turns out they're just simply pro-abortion. They don't want anyone to have a choice. They don't want states to have a choice. They want to be able to control that. And I predict, and I think it's already happening, I've seen some news breaking before we did this interview, that many on the left are going to start advocating for the elimination of the filibuster in order to come against this. So can you talk to us about what is the filibuster and why do we need to make sure that that doesn't happen?
Simplest way to describe the filibuster, slightly different than in Canada. So for me to describe the intricacies of the American filibuster is probably not the best. I'm originally from Canada, for anybody who doesn't know. So for me to describe the American filibuster is essentially you can run out the clock and make sure that certain pieces of legislation don't get through, certain pieces of legislation do get through if you can hold the floor long enough. That's my most simplistic understanding of the filibuster in the United States. That's one element that I have not fully studied of the U.S. Congress and Senate. The
Senate, the founders' original fear was the tyranny of the majority, and they wanted to make sure that just because something is held by the majority doesn't make it right and doesn't make it true. And there are certain things that can never be governed by the majority. Our inalienable rights can never be governed by the majority. And we always wanted to make sure that the minority always had a voice, and they could never be
Yes.
trampled on. And so that's the purpose of the filibuster, so that the minority always has a voice, and one party can't come in and take over, so that another party can never hold power once again. And I think we're gonna see that's going to be the next fight in the election that's coming up, and the elimination of filibuster needs to be something we begin to pray about. Again, this is a draft decision.
Yes.
Drafts change all the time, and we've heard some leaks in previous years that there are some concerns within the Supreme Court of the United States of potential rioting or societal kickback. So we as believers need to begin to press in and make sure that we're praying this thing through, because this is huge. Is there anything else before we get into kind of the apologetics and showing believers how to give an answer when they're faced with some of the difficult questions from the left? Is there anything else you'd like to say about what's happening right now?
Yeah, so I believe that Roe will be tossed out. And when it is, what's interesting is there are over 23 states that will move into banning abortion. Now, then there's 11 states that have trigger laws that as soon as Roe is gone, immediately abortion is banned in those states. So that's incredibly important, because we've been seeing all of these different heartbeat bills, different pro-life legislation on the state level coming out. And that's incredibly important because, as we've said on this program as well, that the whole reason we've been seeing either extreme like infanticide bills come out on the state level or pro-life bills as soon as there's a heartbeat detected, these extremes, I don't think it's extreme to say like you shouldn't kill a child on the 6-week mark. I'm just saying on the broad scale of right versus left almost, pro-abortion versus anti-abortion, these laws are coming into play because it's been a long end game. So for the pro-abort side to be all of a sudden shocked and scared that there's this possibility Roe, their lovely mother Roe, is going to be tossed out. They've known for a very long time. That's why both on the pro-life or anti-abortion and pro-abortion side, they've been putting through all these state laws. I'm incredibly happy with the level of trigger laws that are already in place. But I think that if people really start to focus in on the state level and what's happening in their own individual state, advocate right now is a critical point in time, a juncture really for everybody to get engaged. I think that's going to shift everything even more so.
Well, that's exactly right, and I'm not going to be addressing it in this video, but right on the heels of this, I'm going to be releasing kind of a prophetic warning for the body of Christ. Yes, we need to celebrate for about 2 seconds, and then there's a real warning, because what has not been in your hands is about to be in your hands, and you're going to be held responsible for your actions. So we have to be prepared. We have to be prepared. That's all I'm going to say about that. So let's get into now some of the apologetics of it, because we need to be able to give an answer for the hope that lies within us. And we're really surrounded by people, your generation, my generation, and others who have no idea why they believe what they believe. They're just following the narrative like any dead fish. They're just kind of flowing downstream, and their worldview is about as deep as a bumper sticker. So they have these statements that they use in order to justify their position. And I want to throw some things out to you and see, as a believer, how should we respond when someone uses this? So are you ready for this? You're in the hot seat now.
I'm ready. I haven't done this for years. So let's see. Let's see where we go.
Here we go. It's just a clump of cells. It is a fetus. It is not a baby.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm moving here. The very fact that this fetus, the zygote, continually grows proves that there is human life. And the value in which I value you, I value that human life from the moment of conception. So the fact that that child has a DNA, you cannot, at the moment of conception, we have this DNA code that no one else in the world has and no one else in the world will ever have again. So that distinguishes this as a living being worthy of protection, and you can't separate any kind of feeling from biological fact.
So on the heels of that, you've got the statement, "My body, my choice." So let's dig a little bit into that. Tell me, how do we respond to that?
Yeah, so "my body, my choice" is one of my favorite things people tell me, and it's very absurd. So this is my response to it. That's my pretext, honestly. My response is it's a child inside of your body. But when you go in for an abortion, you're not killing yourself. You're having your child murdered. And at the end of the day, that's what abortion is. And if it's really your body, you would end up in the canister and not your dead child.
Wow. That's kind of makes it clear. You never ask anyone, how's your fetus doing if they're pregnant?
Exactly.
You know, how are your cells?
Yes.
We ask them how's
and to be honest, even I just thought of this with regards to the clump of cells argument. You and I are both clump of cells.
Yeah.
Just large clumps of cells. Really, truly. So if you think that your clump of cells, your being as a clump, is more worthy of protection and rights and freedoms than a smaller clump of cells, then that's very elitist of you.
Wow. Well, here's the next one. Are you ready?
I'm
What
ready.
about the sad stories? Because this is what we're going to get. Because we're gonna get the story of, well, what about the woman or the young girl who was 12 years old and she was raped and she is handicapped, and the child, you know, just the worst case scenario that
all
they
the
present.
hypotheticals,
All
right?
the hypotheticals, yes. How do we respond to that? Because we want to be compassionate, and we feel for those
absolutely.
as believers. We want to love and care for everyone and take care of those needs. What's the proper response?
Killing is never compassion, and offering death is never a solution. I have personally met young women, young girls even, because there is a distinguishing factor there. I've met these young women and they've never wanted their child gone. In fact, they always want to keep their child, and it's always outside pressure, whether it's their family, their friends, culture, society at large, pressuring them and telling them that they will not be successful without having their child murdered. So the way we respond is by offering both that statement I previously said, but also offering a life-giving solution, saying and encouraging these young women, saying, you and your child are worthy of life, and you will be successful with this child and with your career and with your family relations and in school, etc. So pointing them in the direction of, hey, look at what we do as a pro-life sphere. We actually provide, both through resources, time, and even through our homes, we provide all these things through pregnancy resource centers to ensure that we take care of the mother pre-birth and the mother and her child post-birth. And not only that, we carry that on well into both of their futures because we want to see families be successful. So we're willing to give of ourselves regardless of the situation to make sure that everybody's successful, everybody's happy and healthy.
That's really important. And also consider when you're talking with someone about this and they bring up rape or incest, do you know the stats on what percentage of abortions are for rape, incest, and the health of the mother?
The last stat I saw was 0.09%. So it's very, very small. Very
small. So a
small.
way to really, if you're talking with someone, and generally people who are moved, they have big hearts, small brains. And they're moved by this horrible situation, rape, incest, health of the mother, life or death situation. Then meet them there. Say, okay, let's set that aside. Then let's say in that situation, I would be willing to have a conversation with you. So let's set that aside. What about the other times? What about the other abortions? The 90+% of abortions. Do you think those should be okay? And if their response is yes, well, then those extreme situations don't matter to them anyway. They just brought them up to play on your heartstrings. They don't really care. They just want to be able to abort on demand.
Absolutely. And even on the issue of rape and incest, I mean, I've talked to these women who have been raped or have experienced incest and gotten pregnant from it. And there's this line that connects all their stories, and it's never right to commit another crime to try and resolve or fix another crime. So murder is never justification or a way to resolve rape. It doesn't make sense. So in that case, you come at it with absolute compassion. You put yourselves in their shoes, and you say, like, I'm against it all. I'm against the killing of innocent lives, and I'm against rape and murder. Both are morally wrong. and both deserve justice.
It's the only consistent position that you can have.
Absolutely.
When you're dealing with these issues. And we need to be there for them and say, if that's the situation, then we'll help you pre-birth,
yes,
post-birth, with adoption, with motherhood, whatever you need help with, we're here to help you with that. And that's really important. We're actually the people who are pro-choice by offering them choices that don't involve corrupting their conscience and creating a future for them where they are laden with condemnation because of what they've done to their child. And if someone's watching this right now and they have done that, there's liberty, there's freedom through the blood of Jesus Christ, through the power of his resurrection, and there's community within the church to help you through that. But we need to do what we can to provide answers. Let me give you a few more very quickly just to get your reaction to them. Here's one that I get all the time when I'm talking with pastors and church leaders. I'm pro-life. Personally, I think abortion is wrong, but I think they should have the right to make their own choice.
Well, you simply go, are you personally against murder? Are you personally against rape? Are you personally against incest?
Slavery. So
you're willing to talk and address those things, but you're not willing to address the issue of abortion. Why is that? I always throw it back as a question, and throw any kind of crime in there. That because abortion is a crime, it is murder of the most innocent. So I always throw it back at them as a question in a very non-condescending way, of course, and just repeat it back to them in a way that actually you just change the word abortion and throw back a different element of crime in there. And to be honest, pastors need to step up because when you look at the statistics, I mean, I believe it was Students for Life released some incredible stats with regards to the faith element. I mean, Planned Parenthood is teaching your kids sex ed in their Christian schools, private Christian schools for that matter. They're the ones who are your children's counselors in schools. And also, you look at stats, you have 1 in 4 women in churches have had an abortion while still going to church. Majority of women, I believe it was like 70-something% of women don't even feel comfortable discussing the issue of abortion or don't feel that church is an okay or safe place to discuss abortion or their own abortion. So it's really incumbent upon pastors. I mean, you do an incredible job. And I know a few others, not a ton, but a few others who also do a great job at it. And it's both addressing it head on, but it's also discussing it from this place of if you have had an abortion, because you can be guaranteed at least a quarter, if not half of your congregants, women have actually gone through an abortion, or the men in your church have been affected by abortion, because abortion doesn't just affect a woman and a child, it affects the entire family and thus the entire community. So approaching it with compassion, but always having those private conversations pastor to pastor are incredibly important.
Well, that sounds extraordinarily bigoted, Matea. Extraordinarily bigoted.
Thank you.
You hate women.
I'll wear that.
You hate women.
I love women. My actions, my money, and my time prove I love women. You can throw any label on me. I've been issued them all.
Okay, so when they hurl those names at you and they say, well, if you shut this down and if you shut down abortion, all you're doing is pushing abortions into the back alley where homeless men with coat hangers are going to be performing abortions on women, and there's going to be more deaths and more problems as a result of that. How do we respond to the problem of illegal back alley abortions?
Well, and they always paint it, especially illegal back alley abortions with the hangers, as always being the ones that kill the most women. So it ends up becoming, again, back to the women's rights issue of abortion, saving women's lives. The fact of the matter is, when you look at the data, you look at the statistics, more women have actually died because of legalized abortion than when there were back alley abortions. And the standards of abortion actually, and the cleanliness of abortion facilities actually dropped when it left states' hands. So thus, when you have subsidized abortion facilities, just like subsidized healthcare and everything else that basically government gets its hands on or funds, it basically everything just tanks. So I would argue that you're actually saving women and protecting communities from people who would wish to exploit women and harm their lives by ensuring that abortion is actually illegal or banned to certain restrictions within their states.
I believe it was Dr. Nathanson, if I'm getting his name correctly.
Yes, Nathanson,
well, he was the founder of, or one of the original presidents of NARAL.
NARAL, yes.
Yeah, a national abortion rights activist group who has had a change in heart, and he's now a pro-life individual, if I'm not mistaken. He admits that they lied about the number of back alley abortion, illegal abortion deaths. And it turns out that 90%, even before abortion was legal, 90% were still done by physicians illegally. And he's talked about that openly, I believe.
Oh, yes. And there's various other people like Abby Johnson and many others who used to be in the abortion industry who have actually come out and stated that, man, we lied. We lied either for tax dollars, we lied for statistic reasons to make us look better or to play the victim so that majority of the public would come onto our side. They've lied consistently. So anytime a person lies, I'm like, I'm done with you. Your whole gamut is gone. I don't care what has to come out of your mouth after that point. But it is a common, well-known fact that they have lied time and time again. So why keep listening to them?
I forget who I heard say this, but they were asking pro-abortion people this question. It is all right to intentionally kill an innocent life when you fill in the blank. And that's a great way to approach the issue. You tell the person, all right, I want you to fill in the blank. It's okay to kill an innocent life when, and they're not going to be able to answer that question. So it ultimately comes down to, when does life begin? And there's only one consistent position, and that is at the moment of conception.
Absolutely. Yes. And it's a biological fact. And contrary to what Ketanji Brown Jackson has to say, the new SCOTUS appointee under Biden, you don't have to be a biologist to understand basic elements of science, of biology. And to me, the most incredible portion of it is that matter of DNA. At the moment of conception, there's a unique DNA code created that no one has ever had and no one ever will have again. That's specific to you. You are truly an individual made in the image of God, only a God who created all the intricacies of the universe. I even posted on my Instagram today this picture of the newest picture of a piece of DNA. And it's so intricate. No one could think up the complexities, and yet the simplicity comes like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's so beautiful. To say that God created this one unique individual, like every unique snowflake, speaks to the beauty of all that God is and the beauty of every single life and just how significantly valuable every life really is.
So moving forward, for those who are listening to this, and I feel led to say this, by the way, if you're watching this and you're struggling, you have an unplanned pregnancy and you've been leaning toward abortion, you need help, reach out to us. The links are in the description of this video. We will help you any way that we can. We will pray with you. We'll help you in any other way that you may need help and connect you with agencies and resources that can do that. I think Matea feels the same way.
Oh, I'm so grateful you even said that. I was hoping to say that at the end of this because that's what we love to do. Like, we love you so much. Like we want, I believe that you are already successful. And the fact that you're dealing with this means there's something within you that is telling you abortion just isn't the right choice for you. It's never the right choice for your child, but we will help you. It's not that just we want to, we will help you. We'll put you in contact with people who will care for you, who will look after you, who will financially assist you, etc. So we love you. I love you abundantly.
Amen.
Absolutely.
And that needs to be first and foremost when we're speaking with people or sharing the gospel with them or giving an answer for the hope that lies within us. We need to let them know that we love them and we're here to be a blessing to them in the name of the Lord according to the Word of God. So now people who are hearing this, they see what's happening nationally and they're saying, all right, what can I do? What can I do? Matea, what do I need to do to make sure that we move forward with success and victory in this arena?
Absolutely. First, pray over every single SCOTUS justice with regards to everything that's happening with Roe versus Wade. Pray for them, pray for their families, pray protection over them. Secondly, you need to get engaged on the state level. You can look at various pro-life groups on the, whether it's if you're engaged with, let's say, Live Action or Let Them Live or Students for Life. All these groups, whatever federal or national pro-life group you're connected with, most likely there's going to be a state representative with that group that activates on the state level with regards to state legislation. That's the next battle. So first we pray over the federal court case of Roe versus Wade, over the justices. Second, we get engaged on the state level. And third, encourage your pastors to get engaged in this fight, to speak up both in church, but also take them to the state house, make them aware of what's happening on the abortion issue in your own state. And lastly, I'll say, just educate yourself on the issue of abortion. If you love apologetics and all the nitty gritty details of how to communicate well with people, delve into the apologetics realm of the pro-life or anti-abortion sphere. Or if you're more into the legal sphere, or if you're a lawyer yourself, heck, get engaged with offering your legal opinions on abortion. If you're a pastor, kind of self-explanatory. If you're a mom, talk to your kids when they're old enough. You'll know when they're old enough to start discussing these issues, because if they're in a public school, even a private Christian school now, they're going to be faced in their sex ed classes, heck, even in their math classes with this topic. Yes. So make sure you're on the forefront teaching your kids what's really going on in the world, because if you don't teach them what's right and wrong, someone else is going to give them their version of what is right and wrong on this issue.
So good. Now's the time to rise up. And if we don't, I'm telling you, there's be judgment attached to it. But I believe God has empowered us. He has anointed us to meet this moment with His Word, with His power, and with His grace. Matea, thank you so much. How can people connect with you and see what's going on in your life?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all the same handle at Matea Murda. I also do every single night of the week, I do a program called Check the News, where we literally just check the news so that you don't have to get depressed or overwhelmed with everything happening in the world. We kind of consolidate all the information that you need to know into 1 hour-long program every night. So you can find us at Check the News on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, etc. And I would love to connect with people, and especially if you have questions, you're struggling with a question, pro-abortion individuals kind of point at you, send it my way, and I'll definitely help you work through that and give you an answer that you can then take back to them.
When do you think actually this ruling is going to come down officially? Do we have a time frame for that?
Potentially end of June for both the Dobbs versus Jackson and the Mississippi case.
Well, we got some time to pray and get ready, and if we don't, shame on us. But I think we're going to do what we need to do. Matea, thank you so much for being with us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Love being here. And thank you all for joining us on Encounter today. Be sure to like, comment, share, get this message out to as many people as possible, and we'll see you next time. God bless.